Hi everyone, I'm Master Antonia and I'm here with a new video, this time on Chinese metaphysics. I hope that with this video you will get the basics of Chinese metaphysics and at the end you will be able to correlate some of the information that you hear maybe about the different arts in Chinese metaphysics with the entire concept and with the entire category of Chinese metaphysics. So we're going to keep it very simple, very basic. I'm not going to go into too many details or too much information. I don't want to put a lot on you from the beginning, but I hope you will get the taste of it. You will start to be more curious and you will start even to investigate and potentially look for information on your own. So, what is Chinese metaphysics? Well, first of all, this is ancient wisdom. Ancient, I would say Eastern wisdom, because it has its roots in Asia. Most of the Asian countries actually recognize Chinese metaphysics as knowledge, like we recognize different sciences, and for example, they even have in Asia, in specific parts of Asia or China, I would say mostly, they have schools and universities where you can learn Chinese metaphysics, just as, for example, in Europe or in the States, you would go to university to study math, law, literature, sciences, and so on. So there's a really high appreciation. There's a lot of value that people in the East put on this kind of information. And it's really, really important, even how they use it in their daily lives. So Chinese metaphysics, historically speaking, is ancient wisdom collected for thousands of years. There is a small debate here. Some texts refer to Chinese metaphysics or some of the arts in Chinese metaphysics being, thousands of years old, but some refer to it as maybe 2,000, 3,000 years old. Some of them refer to them being more than 3,000 or 5,000 years old. Regardless, imagine, there are people that spend time to collect this information for thousands of years, simplify it, and make it accessible even in our days. And nowadays, the role, I would say, in my opinion, in my perspective, the role of the master of Chinese metaphysics has a very sensitive, let's say, guidance and support in translating all of this knowledge and adapting it to modern life, to the modern context. Because throughout, this very extensive timeline, things have changed, contexts have changed, even how we function, how we think as humans, the struggles that we have, the needs that we have, going from survival to the level of comfort that we have today, right? Thriving. So I would say that, a good master of Chinese metaphysics is able to, first of all, translate this kind of knowledge, adapt it to modern life and modern times and modern needs, why not? And also be able to bring good balance between what to use and align it with the intention or the desire and the needs that one person has. So, what is actually Chinese metaphysics? Aside from, ancient wisdom, what kind of wisdom? So, in general, you will find Chinese metaphysics split into these 5 big pillars. I would say here on the slide that I have, it's quite a comprehensive, let's say, split. So there are 5 different arts. We have the art of the mountain, the art of medicine, art of destiny, art of divination, and the art of forms. Now, each of these 5 pillars comes with different segments. So under each pillar, you will actually find different arts that people use. And you see I've circled here, probably the most known in the West is Feng Shui or Feng Shui. Depending on the country, you might hear it. The pronunciation is a little bit different. However, in general, I think people can relate easier to Feng Shui than with the other arts. I would say probably another one that is wide known is traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM. And under this art, you will find acupressure, acupuncture, and you will be able to identify this with different practices that you find in the alternative medicine world, let's say. So now let's take it one by one maybe, and I'll add some of the information or some of the perspectives I have on each of them. Although I haven't studied all of them, I do have knowledge, let's say, in most of them, just out of pure curiosity, maybe at times. And for some of them, I actually love using them probably on a daily basis or on a regular basis. So let's start with the art of mountain. I would say that here probably most people can relate to things like meditation, the study of Tao, or the study of Tao, which is called Daoism or Taoism, again depending on pronunciation. And I think here there are also some schools nowadays, more often in the West, that teach more about Taoism and the alchemy of the 5 elements in general. Also, you'll find here things like Kung Fu, you see here on the slide, but also Tai Chi, or all of these arts that talk about balance between body, mind, and spirit. There's also another interesting one here which talks about talisman and charms, meaning that back in the old days they used to confection these kind of small talismans or charms that would be either on paper, either on even rocks. I saw in one of the books that I studied on, and also on wood, different surfaces, using actually different colors or different substances to make sure that the charm actually has the right energy and brings to life the energy that the person needs to bring with that charm. I find this one really fascinating, and myself, I'm still studying this art of charms, because I think it changed throughout the years, and nowadays in modern lives it's a little bit more complicated to actually use the materials or the substances that you used back in the days. However, we have new ways to bring that energy to life through a charm. So I think we are able to use maybe our modern tools to even enhance that sometimes. Then we have the art of medicine. I think here it's quite straightforward because most people heard about traditional Chinese medicine. Usually in Asia, when you need a doctor, you actually have the doctor as a prevention measure. So the purpose of the doctor is not to heal you, is actually to keep you healthy. And for example, when you do this traditional Chinese medicine schools or studies, you are considered a doctor, whilst, for example, in the West, we have this Western approach. You're not really considered a doctor unless you go to medical school and you learn the classical medicine, we call it here. But in Asia or in the East in general, you can be called and you're considered actually to be a doctor with this traditional Chinese medicine. I would say that, for example, now in the West, we call this alternative medicine. I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I've seen the results that traditional Chinese medicine has. I've seen the miracles, so to say, of acupressure, acupuncture. So I believe and I have a lot of respect for this knowledge. I believe a good mix between the Western and the Eastern approach. It's a healthy balance nowadays. And of course, keep in mind all of these arts talk about the balance between body, mind, and spirit. So even here under this pillar, the art of medicine, we don't just have traditional Chinese medicine, we also have mental or spiritual therapy, because it's not enough just to heal the body. You also have to heal the mind. You also have to work with your mind and your spirit. And then I'm moving along to the art of destiny, which is probably one of my favorites. So the art of destiny talks a lot about, let's say, faith. And back in the days, they would look at your date of birth and analyze your destiny chart. And this is actually the 4 pillars of destiny or path analysis. So, for example, in Asia, whenever you you want to get into a relationship, or even when you want to get hired, some companies will ask for your date of birth. And what I appreciate about this is that, date of birth is something so personal that it becomes kind of a sacred information. And here in the West, I feel like we give our date of birth so easily, whilst in the East, it's something secret, sacred, and at the same time very, very personal. So they won't share it necessarily, the real date of birth. They won't share it that easily. And sometimes you might even get an incorrect date of birth, just because they don't trust you yet to give you their true date of birth. And I think it's fair in the end. I mean, your date of birth can reveal a lot of information, a lot of personal details about you, about your personality, about how you think, how you act, what you like, what are, let's say, your advantages, your soft spots. So some people might use that against you, which is not very nice. But I hope that most people that know this kind of information and can use this kind of information correctly, they have good intentions. And this is my wish for everyone in general, to always try to have good intentions and act from a place of good intention. And then we have the art of divination. This is probably my favorite. And this is something that masters should not do. So they shouldn't say that something, a specific art, is their favorite, because the idea of being a master is mastering all of these arts. However, I do think, sometimes you get to pick a favorite. You get to be attracted by something in particular. So with the art of divination, we have here quite a few. One of them, so we have I Ching, which is, I would say, the basis of everything. I just love I Ching. We have here the 64 hexagrams, which are at the core of all arts. I don't think there's one where I haven't seen the 64 hexagrams basically being used. And then one of the oldest probably as well. So I think I Ching is also thousands of years old. And imagine all of this information was kind of restricted. It was reserved for the emperors, or basically the leaders in the palace. This was not something that everyone had access to. And sometimes you would even have, let's say, these fake fortune tellers that would try to come across as Chinese metaphysics masters, but in reality, they were fakes. So I Ching is probably one of the most old arts, along with Chimandunja. And I will correlate Chimandunja because also there are ancient texts which refer to Chimandunja, as being mentioned in the mythology, in the Chinese mythology, even 5,000 years ago. So imagine how long this information was collected for, and then synthesized in a way that they were able to use it in wars, in strategies, and basically anything that required precise tactics. So if you ever heard about The Art of War by Sun Tzu, or if you ever read it, keep in mind that Chinese metaphysics is present there. And I will tell you a secret now. So, for example, if someone is reading The Art of War without knowing anything about Chinese metaphysics, you will have one perspective about the book and the let's say the stories there. However, if you start to read and study a little bit of Chinese metaphysics, especially I Ching and Qimendunjia, you will have a completely different perspectives all over the book, and The Art of War will get a different meaning for you. It's absolutely fascinating. I recommend doing that. And then the last one, last but not least, it's The Art of Forms. So here, the most, probably the most popular one is still Feng Shui. I would say that in the West, most people still see it kind of like a decorative art. So Feng Shui is being perceived mostly about decorations, you know, how to move things around the house, the objects you have, the colors, and so on. However, Feng Shui is much more than that. Again, there's a lot of knowledge behind, there's a lot of analysis, calculations, and so on. And I would say, you know, there's a very subtle skill to be able to use it precisely, correctly. And of course here, because it's called The Art of Forms, you will also find face reading, even palmistry. So anything that can be read through forms, so anything that you can read by looking at something and perceiving the different shapes and the different interactions between the forms, the colors, and how they blend together. So in short, this is, let's say, a very summarized view of Chinese metaphysics, of what it is, what are the different things here. And maybe I'll give you a couple of examples of what it means to use Chinese metaphysics and to combine them as well. So for example, someone that is really focused on their health, they might be able, you know, to combine some of TCM, the tradition of Chinese medicine, of course, picking up acupuncture, acupressure, maybe diet, you know, maybe a mix, let's say, of that. And then meditation, the study of Daoism, maybe Qigong, Tai Chi, Kung Fu, so all of this, and you know, focus, let's say, a lot on the body, but at the same time bringing elements for the spirit and the mind. At the same time, if you know someone is looking to find themselves, to understand what's happening in their life, they will probably again combine Taoism and meditation, philosophy in general, with the art of destiny and the art of divination. So different chapters, let's say, different segments of these arts. And then when someone is looking usually for stability, for rooting, they will definitely use Feng Shui to be able to balance energy in their life, bring harmony in their life, and then pick up something from all the other arts. So I would say Feng Shui in general is a lot being used with Qigong, Also with parts because it's important to align a person's energy with the energy of the space, the energy of the house, the energy of maybe the country, the city, the different forms around themselves, and so on. So I would say it's always a mix of arts. So for example, when you do pick up a topic or an intention, or you pick up an area of your life where you want to work on, with usually with a really good master of Chinese metaphysics, they're not going to use just one of these arts. They're going to use a mix of it, or they might bring in another colleague to be able to offer you complementary knowledge, so that you can really deep dive on the challenge and make sure you have a good resolution, and make sure you have all the right tools and the necessary support you need to work through that thing, or bring the energy that you need in your life to align on the intention that you have. So I think this is enough for now for this short introduction. I will be providing more as I explain a little bit more about Chinese metaphysics, about the different arts, how I use them on a daily basis or in general on a recurrent basis. And I hope you enjoyed this short episode, and I'm looking forward to find out from you what are the different arts that you already knew about, if you're using any of it, if you're happy with some of the results that you're getting with each of these arts, or whatever you are using, you are implementing in your life. I'm really curious to hear from you, and I'm looking forward to see your experience. And what would be, for example, some of the arts that made you more curious? What was the most surprising thing that you find out in this video? Or what is something that you are looking forward to know more about in the future? So let me know in the comments, and continue to follow as I release more content and more information about Chinese metaphysics and the different arts that I use most. I hope you enjoyed. See you at the next video. Bye!